Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Melanin Margin, the weekly chat show where conversations about race are never off the table. We're your hosts, Quaviondre Williams.
And Daquon Wilson.
So let's get into this week's conversation. What's hot on the table this week?
In an article written on Newsweek by Jamie Burton, we learned that Harry Styles' win at the Grammys for Album of the Year inspired strong reactions during and after the ceremony. While Styles walked to the stage, people within the Crypto.com arena were heard shouting Beyonce, who made Grammys history earlier that evening by racking up the most wins ever and was favored to win for her album Renaissance. While she is the most decorated artist of all time, she has yet to receive the award for Album of the Year. As debate over Styles' win goes on, a single line from his acceptance speech has also been close read and scrutinized by online commentators. He said, quote, "This is so kind. This doesn't happen to people like me very often. This is so nice. Thank you very much." End quote. Online commentators zeroed in on Styles' mention of people like him, suggesting that he was not acknowledging his privilege as a white man with that line. Commentators pointed out that the majority of Album of the Year Grammy winners have been cisgender white men like Styles. People pointed out that Grammy wins do happen to people who are like him in a few privileged categories. Meanwhile, a black woman hasn't won in the category since Lauryn Hill in 1999. With that being said, Andre, what are your thoughts on Harry Styles' statement?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Let's get into
this,
them.
like, how the fuck did he get up on that stage, walk up to that mic, and say that shit with his full chest? Like, sir, the lack of social awareness that you have to even fix your mouth up to say some shit like this is a level of white caucasity that never ceases to surprise me. And from the articles that I've read with people trying to explain what he meant, L. Hunt theorized that Styles may have meant that he is not a child of nepotism because he didn't have industry connected parents who could give him a leg up in the music industry. Styles has not released an official statement yet to clarify his meaning, so this theory is still very much so being taken with a grain of salt. But even that attempt at an explanation still irritates me on a whole other level. Before I say what I have to say next, I want to clarify something because I know how some of you bitches like to take stuff out of context and run with it. Um, every member of the LGBTQIA community reserves the right not to share their sexuality or their identity. Whether someone is or isn't a part of the LGBTQIA community is none of our fucking business unless they invite us in to know that business. Now, with that being said, as far as Harry Styles has revealed, he is a white, straight, conventionally attractive man by Eurocentric standards. He may not be a child of nepotism in the sense that his parents held doors of success wide open for him, but he sure as shit hit the nepotism jackpot in the societal sense. A successful, straight, conventionally attractive white man isn't breaking any metaphorical glass ceilings. Now, I don't know who the fuck is on the Harry Styles team, but the fact that there has been no statement about all of this from him or his representatives is doing way more harm than good for his image. But since he and his team have yet to issue that statement, here are my thoughts based solely on that comment he made in his acceptance speech. There's this thing that I've noticed among some white creatives where they try to find a way to separate themselves from the privileges that the whiteness grants them. Like they use their oppressions like a shield to protect them from criticism. The comments usually go something like this when they're talking to a person of a different race, specifically a black person. They say something like, yeah, I'm white, but I'm also gay, trans, neurodivergent, disabled, etc., etc., etc. So I know what it feels like to be oppressed like you. Yet when the conversation is with someone who is both gay and black or neurodivergent and POC, that white person is suddenly unable to recognize that they have systemic privilege over these people. It becomes a oppression tug of war where this white person tries to use whatever marginalization they deal with as a way to supersede all the other privileges that their whiteness grants them. And this is what this Harry Styles comment feels like. It's almost as if he knew that people were going to be rightfully upset that yet again, a black woman who has been overlooked for a category that only 3 black women in the ceremony's 65-year history have won. So he wanted to explain why he deserved this win too by saying that this doesn't happen to people like him. He was playing on the defense saying like, hey, look, I know I'm a white man who has won this award again, but I've struggled too. It wasn't easy for me, blah, 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 blah. Instead of simply saying thank you to his fans and his team. It's just an all-around fucked up statement for him to say, no matter what way people try to spin it, especially considering who he was up against in this category. And I feel like I have to say this again to the white people who just can't seem to like get it. No one is invalidating that you didn't earn your spots or that you didn't have a hard life because you were gay, disabled, neurodivergent, whatever. But for the upteenth time, white privilege is not people saying that your life wasn't hard. White privilege is simply acknowledging that your whiteness has no systemic impact on the difficulty of your life. But Daquon, bitch, let me pass these reading glasses back to you, bitch. What you got to say? What are your thoughts on this comment?
You know, I think Harry Styles is just misunderstood. He obviously was talking about that he came from humble beginnings.
Okay.
And also, we don't see a lot of people who come from boy bands winning this award, is what I would say if I did not actually know the truth. Because, girl, none of that is true. The fact is, there have been plenty of people, just like Harry Styles, who, like Andre said before, did not have those industry connections and still won this award, did not come from rich families and still won this award. And there have also been people who were in boy bands who won Album of the Year. Do we not know who Justin Timberlake is? Do we not know who Ricky Martin is? Do we not know who, what's his name from the Beatles is? Whatever, one of them. The point is,
not what's his name, not what's his name.
Not what's his name, but what's his name? The point is, none of these explanations actually hold weight or actually hold merit. At the end of the day, Harry Styles made a very stupid comment because it's just factually wrong. There's plenty of people who are just like him that have won this award and will continue to win this award. And to say that in certain company, like, how are you not able to read the room? I have to like take a deep breath because this is.
Are you not embarrassed? Are you not
embarrassed? Because, I mean, first of all, let's just talk about the award itself. Yeah. Harry's House Album of the Year, where? Who?
No.
Because I don't know about you, but Harry House is a good, Kmart bop. It's a good go play it in the retail store. Back when I was working at a certain retail store, I could hear music like that all the time, and it was great. But Renaissance was culturally impacted.
It was.
That Harry House could never be. And so for somebody to have win Album of the Year over Renaissance,
yeah,
crazy. Or even then, there were still people like Adele and Bad Bunny who, even if Beyonce didn't win, if one of them would have won, I may have side-eyed it a little bit, but a lot less than if Harry Styles won. And furthermore, I think this is baffling to me that we even have to have this conversation again and again at how problematic these award shows are with who they choose to win. Because if you look at some of the interviews from the people who are on these awards committees, you know that they don't care. There have been award committee members who have flat out said that I didn't want to give Beyonce this because she has enough. So I wanted to give it to somebody else who doesn't have as much as Beyonce. Or I wanted to give this award to this person just because I like this person. I didn't really do my due diligence with all of these, listening to all of this stuff, but I like this person, so I'm going to vote for this person.
Yeah.
And it really sheds a light at how kind of frivolous these awards is, because at the end of the day, it's pandering to old white men for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. That's who is on these academies, who are voting members of these academies, making the decisions on who gets the award. But back to the comments. All I have to say, Harry, is read the room, Harold.
Read the
Please read the room.
room.
Because why are you getting caught up so much with what you say?
Also, and I'm glad you brought that up too, bitch, because Harry Styles has been under fire for a number of other controversies since the last time we brought him to the table with that whole Louis situation. The first was when Rolling Stones named him the new king of pop, and the fact that he also didn't release a statement denouncing the title that he has come nowhere near earning. And the second was during his interview with the movie My Policeman, when he was said, quoting, when he was talking about queer love scenes, he said, quote, so much of gay sex in film is just two guys going at it, and it kind of removes the tenderness from it. There will be, I would imagine, some people who watch it who were very much alive during this time when it was illegal to be gay, and Michael wanted to show that it's tender and loving and sensitive. Daquon, what do you think about those other controversies?
Girl, once again, might I add, Harold, read the room. Because it's just, first of all, if, like you said before, anybody that's a part of the LGBTQIA community does not owe their sexuality, gender, whatever identity to anybody.
Yeah.
But if you are speaking on gay matters, if you are speaking over a community that we do not know that you are a part of, I'm not saying that you have to come out. I'm not saying that you have to reveal your identity, but you got to say things with a lot of tact. And that did not have tact at all. And the other comment of the him not denouncing the king of pop, like, girl, as much as you want, as much as you can say about Michael Jackson, about the things that Michael Jackson has done,
Yeah.
whatever, his impact is undeniable. His, presence in the music industry, the things that he's done, his influence on the industry is absolutely undeniable. I'm not, putting that man on a pedestal,
Mm-mm.
but King of Pop Harry Styles, mm,
Mm-mm.
it's not, it's a no for me. It's a no for me personally.
Yeah, when it comes to that whole Rolling Stone situation, even though Harry Styles didn't self-proclaim that he was the next king of pop, the fact that his team allowed the magazine to say that and still has yet to release a statement about it says a whole lot without saying anything. Now, I'm not a Harry Styles hater. He has talent and definitely has influence among a certain demographic of fans, but the king of pop, absolutely the fuck not. But there's also a racial connotation to Rolling Stones trying to reassign the title of a black man to a white man, but that's a whole nother conversation. All I can say is that Harry Styles or his team should have swiftly told Rolling Stones to try again, boo boo. Like, shit like this is the quickest way to piss off the black community, but maybe that was the whole point. Because we all know this whole situation or this whole spread that he did had to be approved by him or and his team before it's published. So maybe they were following in the footsteps of other white creators who want to monetize black rage. The whole any publicity is good publicity sentiment. Like, if you get the black community mad at the Rolling Stones cover, they'll be reading him. And Harry Styles fans will be defending him. And lo and behold, look who's trending on social media, Harry fucking Styles. So do with that what you will. Then there's this whole statement about My Policeman. Uh, that shit right there, like that shit took the cake for me because, sir, what fucking gay love scenes are you watching? Because there are several movies and TV shows alike that shows sex between two men in a very loving and tender way. See, this may be an example, I think you kind of touched on this too, Daquan, of allyship speaking for the community instead of with the community. As of right now, Harry Styles has not confirmed that he is or isn't a part of the LGBTQI community. And again, I'm not saying that he has to, bitch. We know we're saying that. But I think that the only thing that we know for certain right now is that he's an ally to the LGBTQI community. So, as an ally, he has no license to critique the community in such a way, especially when his critique was unwarranted and false. All he had to say was, I love how tender and loving the scenes are in this movie. End of discussion. Period. That's all you had to say. Like, that would have been a perfectly acceptable answer, but that's not what he said. And then, there's this other frustrating element of this whole situation that goes beyond Harry Styles that I wanted to discuss with you, Daquon. Mainstream society really does have a serious problem with celebrating cultures only when it comes from someone who is not directly a part of that culture. Let's take queer culture, for example. Openly queer people like Lil Nas X, Sam Smith, Saucy Santana, Billy Porter get read for filth for their performances, their gender-bent red carpet attire, and so on. Straight society drags openly queer people through the mud for being proud of who they are, yet people who remain ambiguous in their sexuality or are simply straight, like Harry Styles or Machine Gun Kelly, straight society, more often than not, celebrates them as so fashion forward and so iconic because they're wearing a fucking dress or painting their nails. And it's like, be so fucking for real right now. And before I say this next part, I want to clarify again that I'm not saying that this is what Harry Styles is doing, but I think that there are some celebrities who use the aesthetics of a marginalized culture to their advantage to gain a specific form of popularity while still maintaining the privileges of not being perceived as part of that marginalized culture. For those who do this with queer culture, their team is fully aware that LGBTQIA culture is very open and very respectful of people's privacy because of the dangers surrounding being open about your sexuality and gender as an LGBTQIA person. This basically means that there are some people who know for a fact that they are fully straight but will perform queerness to get that coin. So they'll get the rewards that performative queerness grants them, like the fashion and the LGBTQIA fan base and so on, and none of the drawbacks that come with being queer, because they know that all the people who will try to speculate on whether or not they're part of the LGBTQI community, the community will protect them by defending their privacy. It's a very insidious tactic that some celebrities utilize that compares with, those white celebrities who co-opt and perform blackness when it suits them. But once those benefits run dry, they quickly go back from, I'm Becky from the hood to Rebecca who works in the finance department. But Daquon, I want to know what are your thoughts on performative queerness?
I think it's absolutely annoying and disgusting. It's something that's just so prevalent in our society. And like going back to Harry Styles, like Harry Styles and Sam Smith could be wearing the same thing. Sam Smith, they would get dragged through the mud on every aspect of their outfit.
Have
They
been.
could take they could take a deep breath and still get dragged for taking a deep breath. Be like, oh, they're taking too much of a deep breath. They're out of shape. They need to do something. And it's like, they can't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
But Harry Styles doing the exact same thing. He is exonerated. He is praised. He's, oh my gosh, fashion forward, breaking barriers, doing this, and that. And it's the same narratives that we've seen in other topics, such as like, the Kardashians and Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
Kardashians introduced the boxer braids and everybody loved it. It's like the Kardashians can get away with boxer braids, but an actual Black woman using black hairstyles, unprofessional, unkempt, ugly, can't be seen on the runway, all of those stuffs. And it's annoying because this is why we have to have so many conversations about cultural appropriation, queer baiting, all of these other things. And This is not me saying that Harry Styles is queer baiting or he's culturally appropriating or any of that stuff. But it is a conversation that we have to have way too often, because so often we put these people on a pedestal because they are more conventional. They are closer to what it is to be the norm, and they are the safe bet. And so when people in power get a chance to be progressive, quote unquote, they're going to be going with the safe bet who's, yeah, they may dress a little funny, but at least they're still this cisgendered, conventionally
Mm-hmm.
attractive white man. They're not going to go full, okay, we're going to do this non-binary person. We're not going to do this gay black man. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to stick to what makes the most people comfortable and leave the actually marginalized people on the margins.
Exactly. In an article on Forbes magazine written by Kate O'Flaherty, we learned that people have been sharing their Netflix passwords for years, and the streaming giant actually used to encourage the practice. Who could forget that Netflix tweet back in 2017 that read, "Love is sharing a password"? At the time, Netflix's strategy was much more about eyeballs on the screens. It didn't care who shared their passwords if a ton of people were watching. But 5 years later, things are very different. Netflix is struggling financially against growing competition from other streamers such as Disney, and that's on top of the global economic downturn. The figures say it all. Netflix lost nearly 1 million subscribers between April and July 2022 as people decided to quit the service. Netflix has tried pulling its prices up, but it's not enough. There are 100 million people sharing passwords, and Netflix wants to monetize them. According to Netflix's shareholder letter, password sharing will end by the close of the first quarter of the year, which could be as early as March 31st. Now, there is no exact date confirmed yet, and Netflix is still testing various scenarios to gain feedback from their streamers. So, Daquon, I want to ask you, do you think that this is a good idea for Netflix, or could this end up being their swan song that turns them into the next blockbuster?
Well, I don't think it's blockbuster level yet. I don't think this is the nail in the coffin that's like, all right, Netflix is dead. I don't think that it's a great idea at all. In fact, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's an okay idea. It's a bad idea because Netflix is worried about the wrong thing here. I think Netflix is so focused on just trying to get as much money as possible, when in reality, their focus should be on retaining the subscribers that they do have. And a
Mhm.
move like this is only going to push more subscribers out and onto other platforms. I think Netflix's biggest problem is that it's not that people are, just hoarding all of these accounts and they're all using the same account, because let's be real, password sharing, it's going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
But the problem is that Netflix isn't putting enough value on their platform to make
Mhm.
people want to have their own accounts. Because at the end of the day, if you have a Netflix subscription, you'll find a show that you like, you'll watch like the first few seasons, and then all of a sudden it gets cut. And it's like, girl, this was the show. Like, y'all should have been putting money into this. And
Yeah.
then all of the good shows just get cut and they don't get renewed for second seasons, third, whatever. You're left on these cliffhangers and left with
Mhm.
all of these plot holes that should have been filled in future seasons, but those future seasons will never come to be. So it's like, what's the point of having my own subscription to this service if I feel like I'm not really getting that value as a customer? I think this is like business 101. If you aren't seeing the numbers that you want, think about what it is that the consumers want. I don't think it's, oh, the consumers intentionally want to share these passwords just to stick it to Netflix and not give them
Yeah.
enough money. It's, all right, like I use Netflix sometimes, but I don't use Netflix all the time. So you can also use my Netflix, and because it doesn't make sense for me to pay all of this money when I'm not really using the service all that much. If there's only like one or two shows that I watch every now and then, or if it's a show that I watch I binge watch it, and then I'm done for the month. I don't have any other
Mhm.
shows that I want to watch. So I think that Netflix should really focus on retaining their current customer base and making sure that they provide value so that people feel inclined to subscribe and to keep their own subscriptions. It's simple.
Ye- Yeah, bitch. If Netflix does this shit for real, they will fuck up their paper big time. Like, I really think that Netflix really forgot that they are not that girl anymore. Shit, to be
At all.
honest, girl, they haven't been that girl for a very long time. Like,
They thought they
don't
were
get
the
me.
only one.
They really thought they thought they were that one. They thought they were that girl, baby. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Get somebody else to
Mm-mm.
do it. Like, don't get me wrong, they do come out with a couple of bops every now and then. You know, there was the Orange and the New Black, and some people like Stranger Things too, you know. And I think that they are one of the streaming services that people often look toward to pick up shows that were previously dropped by TV networks like Manifest and Lucifer, both of which were incredibly popular shows that I'm sure brought Netflix big coin. But girl, that is not enough to pull the shit that they're trying to pull right now. Like, Netflix had a monopoly on the streaming market for a very long time, so much so that the streaming giant has become a household name and has been the go-to service that people talk about in movies, TV shows, and even books that are set in the modern era. Like, Netflix is so integrated into pop culture that even when people are hooking up with their special someones while watching any streaming service, it is still known as Netflix and chilling. Unfortunately, I think that Netflix has let this popularity go to their head big time. And this whole password sharing ploy is a clear indication of that. I think that Netflix is severely overestimating how many people need to use their service, and they need someone to sit them down and give them a real reality check. What made Netflix so popular back in the day is all the licenses that they had to stream many of the most popular movies and TV shows at the time. They had contracts with some major heavy hitters that allowed them to show hit movies and TV shows that couldn't be watched unless you purchased or rented the DVD yourself. It was more affordable and economical at the time when Netflix was first coming up to purchase the streaming service for like what, $10 a month at the time, and see hundreds of movies and TV shows versus buying a few DVDs at a time. Like, the demand for a variety of TV and films to watch was high, and Netflix had the biggest supply for the lowest cost at the time. But I have to stress that at the time part very hard, because in 2023 Netflix has lost its footing quickly. Like, while they were very innovative at the time, not just with their supply of movies and TV shows, but with their decision to start streaming and creating their own content, times have changed significantly. Now, I'm not a data analyst, but I think that the reason Netflix may be losing money has little to do with the amount of people who are actively paying for a Netflix subscription, but the fact that their competition is steadily rising and people are just moving to streaming services that are more catered toward their specific interests. Like, Netflix is struggling to keep up with the competition because their business model was originally created as a streaming service for the movies and TV shows of their competition. Now that their competition is taking back their content for their own platforms, people who used to have Netflix for Disney shows and movies are leaving Netflix for Disney Plus. The same of HBO movies and TV shows, Paramount, and so on. The same thing I think that Netflix is too focused on is trying to monetize the amount of eyes on the screen, like the article pointed out, instead of trying to focus on the quality of content like you're talking about by what they're trying to put in front of those eyes. But before I go off about that, Daquon, before I really read into that, because I got an idea that I want to run past you, bitch, but I want to ask you first. What are some of the ways that you think that Netflix could try to stay ahead of the game as far as streaming services are concerned?
I think Netflix really needs to focus on what is its brand. Like, what
Yes.
does Netflix do and what does it do well? What is the market exactly that Netflix is trying to cater towards? Like you said, if you want Disney, if you want Marvel films, if you want any of that, you have Disney Plus. You're going to go there. And
Yeah.
so Netflix needs to find what's its calling card, because it was that jack of all trades. It did everything. You wanted a
Mm-hmm.
Disney show, we have Disney shows. You wanted these blockbuster movies, we have that.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like you said, they're getting taken off, getting put onto other platforms. Netflix needs to do something to rebrand itself and really define what it is that they want that platform to be. And they also need to make sure that they're doing something that really sets them apart from their other competitors. Because at the end of the day, nobody has time nor the money to have all of these different platforms. Nobody wants Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and Paramount Plus and Showtime. Like, Netflix needs to get on the game of figuring out what they can do to provide the most value, to maybe bundle some things in, get something to where you can have so much more with a Netflix subscription than you can with a Disney subscription, or that you can, because even things like Spotify, you can get Spotify, Hulu, and Showtime with one specific bundle. And so I think Netflix needs to find a way that they can stand out in terms of how much value they can have, what their brand is, and exactly who they want to market towards.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if Netflix moves forward with this business plan, they are really about to play fuck around and find out. Um, and I think that the most important aspect of streaming services, even more so than the content they produce, is and will forever be their convenience. It's why we pay for streaming services to begin with. People were tired of only being able to watch their favorite TV shows and movies at home, which is a lot of the reason why cable is slowly but surely going out of style as well. If Netflix removes their password sharing option, they'll be taking away the core of what makes their streaming service a fucking streaming service. Like, if I can only use Netflix when I'm at home, then why not just get cable? At least cable companies are trying to keep up with the times by having apps that allow you to stream your cable and on-demand movies from your devices from wherever you want. But like I touched on earlier, Netflix is missing the bigger picture here. If they are trying to make more money and bring in more people to purchase their service, then they need to alter their business model. Now, Daquon, you kind of touched on this too, and I kind of want to hammer it home with my idea, bitch, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, bitch. Now, again, I don't have a business degree, and I'm not a data analyst, so I don't know how applicable the strategy that I'm about to detail is, but bitch, here we the fuck go. So, a lot of what I've heard people say is that Netflix should invest in their original content. And I agree. But I think a little specificity may be of help here. If Netflix wants to bring in more consumers to their platform, original content shouldn't be secondary to the content they acquire through licensing. It should be their primary source of content. Secondly, I think that what made Netflix stand out in the beginning and what turned it into the streaming service, like, giant that it is now, was, like you said, Daquan, their innovation. So let's keep with that trend. One thing that I've heard many streaming service consumers complain about the most across the board is that streaming services have canceled shows way too soon and never give these shows a true chance to pull in viewers. Now, many of the original shows released by streaming services are so bogged down by the massive amounts of content on the platform that some pretty amazing shows get unnoticed and get canceled because of that. How about instead of just canceling shows based off of viewing statistics that don't always match up to the fan engagement or appreciation of the work, let your subscribers decide. Now, let's say that a few times a year, or whenever Netflix thinks that a show isn't performing the way they want it to, instead of just canceling the show, Netflix creates a poll in their platform of a lineup of shows that they are considering to cancel. But before they do, they'll let their users vote on which shows they want to see come back. And at the end of the period of, let's say, a month, right? Netflix takes in the poll and renews the top 3 highest voted shows and gives them a season renewal. And to take it a step further, every paid Netflix account could account as one vote. So eager fans of the shows would likely purchase a Netflix subscription, even just for 1 month, to vote on saving their favorite show. Not only that, but it also creates a sort of user engagement that I don't think any other streaming services have utilized yet. As I've said before, people look to Netflix as the go to service to petition to save a recently canceled show. Why doesn't Netflix capitalize on this image with their own shows? Not only would they get the money from the people who bought accounts just to vote, but for the shows that are saved through the voting system, the fans would be way more likely to retain their Netflix subscription just in case they have to vote again sometime in the future for another show. Now, it could even be its own category within the subscription service. I would say maybe call it hashtag Netflix save or hashtag Netflix renew, which would not only promote a positive media attention with Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, and stuff like that, but it will revamp the Netflix platform as the streaming service that truly does value the opinion of its users. Now, again, I don't know how applicable this could be in their business model, but I truly believe that this could be the thing that sets Netflix apart from other streaming services in such a significant and awesome way. But Daquon, what do you think? What do you think, Mitch? What do you think?
I think that's getting onto something. And I also want to say that it is currently February 12th, 2023. So if we see this in the future, if this change is made, y'all know when this is filmed. So y'all know when we said it first. Okay? All right. But I do think that it gets at this point of really connecting to the consumer, because I think even beyond streaming services, other streaming service, Netflix has to compete with social media, because social media is another big part of entertainment. And I think that they've tried to do that with like shows where they take social media stars and put them on a Netflix show.
Yeah.
But of course, those don't have that same connection to the audience. And so I do like this idea of Netflix doing something to really connect to their subscribers, to really connect to the people who are on their platform, because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't have any connection to Netflix. They don't have any connection to Disney Plus. It's just, I
Mhm.
want to watch this show,
And it's on
and
this
so
platform.
it's on this platform. So they
Yeah.
need to make sure that they are connecting the show and the consumer base. And so that idea of the polls could be a way in terms of, if I know my show's on the chopping block, oh, I'm gonna have my
Oh, bitch, I'm gonna
subscription
purchase it immediately.
renewed. I'm gonna make sure that my card is correct in my Netflix account so that they can get charged and be put. So, because I want my show to last. And it also
Exactly.
creates like this kind of, it creates more of a community, because then you have
Yes.
other people who are like, okay, y'all, we're fans of this show. Let's make sure that we get this going. Let's make sure that we create noise around this so that we can get those numbers. And I think that even in some other media, like I've seen certain anime and certain TV shows literally polling their fans on, well, who are the most interesting characters, and then doing a spin-off on that character. So
Mm-hmm.
you really have to find a way to innovate and engage your audience, and that is definitely a way.
And I think that it's also just like giving that excitement. Like
Mhm.
imagine feeling like even if Netflix doesn't directly considering, makes their own little tweaks or whatever, because businesses do what they do. But like even if it's only a facade, the idea of having your users feel like they're a part of the decision-making process is such a massive way to pull in that like Netflix gives a fuck. Like does that make sense? Like it's
Right.
like they
It's
don't give
like
a fuck
why
about what we think.
all of those like reality shows like American Idol and all of that stuff was so big, because people felt like, oh, we can call into the show, we can put our votes in, and we can support the people we want so that they can continue, so that they can get those opportunities. It's the same thing. And it's just like Netflix, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
You really
You don't
don't.
have to reinvent the wheel. In an article written on NPR by Emma Bowman, we learned that Viola Davis has achieved EGOT status after picking up her first Grammy. The 57-year-old actor won the award for the Best Audiobook, Narration, and Storytelling Recording for her memoir, Finding Me, at the 2023 Grammy Awards premiere ceremony on Sunday, ahead of the main awards show. The honor follows her Emmy win for How to Get Away with Murder, an Oscar for Fences, and a Tony for both King Hedley II and Fences. She's only the third Black woman to claim EGOT status and the 18th person to receive the honor overall. In her acceptance speech, Davis said, quote, "I wrote this book to honor the 6-year-old Viola, to honor her life, her joy, her trauma, her everything. And it has been such a journey. I just EGOT," end quote. So, Andre, I want to ask you, do you think that there's any dream that's too big to achieve?
Bitch, absolutely the fuck not.
Period.
As cliche as it sounds, I don't really believe in dreaming too big. Like, if there is even the slightest possibility that it can happen, then in my mind, it happened. It's available. It's achievable. I think that if we let our doubts hold us back from trying to chase our dreams, then yes, the dream has indeed become too big for us. Like, it all has to do with your perception of your dreams, because as we all know, perception shapes how we see the world. There are so many factors that determine whether or not we achieve the highest of high of our dreams, whether it be social status or networking connections, opportunities, location, luck, whatever. But I think that when you believe that you can achieve a dream and actively work towards trying to make that dream a reality, then there is nothing stopping you from getting there in some form or another. Like, we've talked about this before on the show, but when you start to differentiate what success looks like for you and what people will see as success for you, then you'll be happier for it. For example, Daquon and I wanted to create a podcast where we could speak on race and social issues that will hopefully give another voice to uplifting and spotlighting marginalized communities. Our dreams for what we want and where we want to go with this show are big. We want to do live streams, have more fan engagement, get a producer for the show, level up and keep growing. I mean, those goals are very much so achievable. But even at this stage where we are right now, we are already successful because we are doing the thing that we wanted to do from the beginning, which is create a space to talk about issues that matter to the both of us. Now, regardless of where this show goes in the future or how far we get to those milestones we hope to cross one day, we're still very proud of the work that we've done and the work that we are doing and the work that we will do in the future. Not everyone is able to do what they love each day. So if you are able to do what you love, you've already achieved a massive success in that ability alone. Now, I try not to lowball what I'm capable of or what I'm capable of achieving, because the moment you decide that you can't achieve something is the moment that you will close the door to any possibility that you will. And as difficult as it is sometimes, and as stressful as it can be, try your best to avoid telling yourself that you can't achieve something, because bitch, I really do sound like a Disney movie right now. But when you really believe in yourself, and I mean really believe that you are that girl, there's no telling what feats you could accomplish. But Daquon, before I break out into a musical number about believing in yourself, he asked you,
Do you
do
believe?
you think that there's any dream that's too big to achieve?
No, not at all. I think that, you can do what you put your mind to. I know it's so cliche to say, but it's the truth. Like,
Yes.
if one of my favorite quotes is by Marion Wright Edelman. She says that you can't be what you can't see. And I think that works on a lot of different levels. One is talking about representation and making sure that we have representation so that people can see who they want to be. But I also think that it works in the realm of like manifesting and
Yeah.
visualization. You cannot achieve that dream if you just think, oh, it's too big. I can't do that. Because you're not spending time visualizing what it means to have that dream come true, what it means to have the steps in place to get to that dream. So you need to be able to have that dream, see what that dream entails. What does it take to get to where you need to be so that dream can be fulfilled? And all of that just comes down to believing in yourself and believing in your craft. I know for me There have been times when I have been doubtful about my abilities. I have been doubtful about my skills, but I needed to be my own biggest fan. I needed to believe
Mm-hmm.
in me because if I don't believe in myself, why should anybody else believe in me? And so when you see all of these stories, like there are people who come from all different types of humble beginnings. There are
Yeah.
people who literally are, homeless. They grew up without any money. They have all of these trials and tribulations that they go through, and then they still are able to achieve such huge things. And I'm not trying to use that as like some inspiration porn or anything like that. It's just the truth. There are people who have, suffered all of these different types of, things, and they're still able to achieve because they could dream. They
Yeah.
had that idea. They nurtured it. They cultivated what it means to be successful. And when you think about your success every day, it becomes clearer and clearer, and that dream moves more and more into reality. And you realize, hey, this was this big dream that I had, but now I have this skill that
Mm-hmm.
makes this dream even easier to achieve. Now I'm closer in terms of where I want to be geographically in
Yeah.
order to make this dream come true. So it's all about not only that big dream, but also seeing those small steps to get to where you want to get to.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that there is also no time limit on chasing your dreams. Like, I know I've been guilty of comparing myself to what other people my age are doing with their lives or where they are in the process of chasing their dreams, but I really have to check myself regularly. I think many of us tend to think of life as a metaphorical race with achievement checkpoints you're supposed to hit at a certain time in your life. But I've had to do some work to unlearn this ideology. There is no standard age or point in your life where certain checkpoints should be met. The way that I like to think about it is from a quote I heard from a show called Queer as Folk from the character Lindsay Peterson. She said, quote, "My house has many rooms. I occupy but a few. The rest go unvisited." Now, think of your life as a massive house with hundreds of thousands of rooms filled with different paths that you can take in your life, and you have the keys to every single one of them. There's a door for every possibility, every goal that you want to meet, everything that you want to do. However, it's your decision whether or not you pick up the key and open the door to walk through it. For example, I know I would probably make a great parent, but I have zero aspirations to have children. Now, the room where I could be a parent is still available to explore in my metaphorical house, but I have no interest in entering that room at any point in my life, so it will remain locked and unvisited. Now, bringing it back to the point, people have defied odds across all ages to chase their dreams, and I think you touched on that a little bit too, Daquon. Like, people were told that they were too old to get a degree and have graduated on universities with honors. People who were told that they wouldn't live past certain ages have lived long, healthy lives until ripe old ages. And people who were told that they could never be parents have had children and even grandchildren. And while some of these things could be considered, outliers or miracles, the fact remains that there is always a possibility that you can achieve your wildest dreams as long as you're still alive. And hell, sometimes after you've long gone, your dreams are still brought to life. Never stop fighting for your dreams and never give up on them, because even when it looks like you've waited too long or it's too late, you can never put a time frame on when your dreams will be achieved. It can happen at any time, any place, at any stage in your life. But Daquan, do you think that there's a time limit?
Not at all. And I think that, the era of social media has put this pressure on us because we have the viewing of so many people doing all of these different things being so young. Like,
Yeah.
imagine all of the social media stars who are, in their early 20s with millions of fans and got all of this money and success and whatever. And they've achieved so much in so little time. It's like, wow, like I'm 24. Like,
Yeah.
where's my, millions of followers, X, Y, and Z? And it's like sometimes you just need to take a step back and realize that like you have so much time. You have
Yes.
so much time to get to where you want to get to. And why rush to get to where your dream is versus enjoying the process? Because I think that when you enjoy the process, it makes that achievement taste so much better. It makes it just feel so much better because you're like, wow, like I really did that. I did X, Y, Z to get here, and now I'm finally here. And you also have to realize that for so many people, success doesn't come until later in their life. Like Viola Davis herself, a lot of her big roles didn't come into well when she was well in her 30s and 40s. Morgan Freeman didn't really get his first big break until he was 50.
Mm-hmm.
So there are plenty of stories of people who may have been quote unquote late bloomers or achieved success later in life, and they still have been able to do huge things even after they became successful. So there's no time limit on when you can achieve certain things. Any day is a day to start, any day could be that big break. But you're not going to know until you start, and you're not going to know until you just keep going day by day by day. Like I said before, you have to really focus on those small steps. Like, yes, your dream is big and it's out there, but you need to focus on what you need to do today to get to there. And then the timeline will play out however it needs to play out. But you need to focus on what you need to do because at the end of the day, that dream will come to fruition when you're ready. And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't understand is that sometimes they want all the success, but they're not ready for that success.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little intense. Let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. So, Andre, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite way to spend a Friday night and unwind after a long week?
I know this is supposed to be a cool down, Daquon, but the tip might have to stay at a little simmer because this question
Oh,
really hit me harder than I thought it should have. Because my answer is that like I'm still working to figure out how exactly to unwind. I mean, I scroll through social media, read a lot of fan fiction, and watch movies and
hmm
TV. And while those things could be considered fun to some people, for me, these things don't exactly get me to relax so much as help pull me back from going too close to the edge. I guess in a way that's technically unwinding, but I've been looking for ways to truly relax, but it's a little difficult for me for various reasons. Like, for one, I'm dealing with a mental health issue, which fucks shit up when when my mind is idle. So like I could fall into a pretty dark, depressing place very quickly when my brain isn't occupied by something else to focus on. Like, which is why I'm usually always doing something, working on something, or planning to work on something. Trying to find out how to turn the dial down a little has been a process, to put it simply. I used to use liquor as a way to decompress, but alcoholism runs on both sides of my family. And when I found that I was wanting to use liquor as a form of escapism for my own mind rather than just to have a good time, I quickly had to let that go. And then there was the eating out, which also became a form of escapism for me that I had to mitigate because I went overboard with it. And it just, see, the thing about me is that I have a tendency to overindulge when I find things that bring me happiness, since being happy is a state of mind that can be a little difficult for me to remain in. Not to mention that I have an addictive personality, which is not a good mix when dealing with stuff like this, because indulging in anything that helps me unwind often develops into me taking on some pretty unhealthy habits. But on the bright side, I am in therapy. I'm finding better coping mechanisms and working through ways to treat myself better. So hopefully, in time, doing these things will help me learn how to unwind in a way that can help me truly relax, instead of for me trying to find a way to, check out of reality in a not so healthy way. But Daquan, what about you, bitch? I'm hoping your answer will actually cool down the table.
I think for me, I also have trouble unwinding after a week, but like I'm working on it, and I feel like I'm still at a good place. I think for me, the problem with unwinding is I use a lot of my free time to do my passion projects, which
Yeah.
are fun to do, but is also work. So
Yeah.
it's like I just had my work week. I'm taking the weekend to do all these crazy makeup looks, and I, I may have a makeup look that takes 8 hours, and it's just like, girl, I'm just adding another work
I'm
day
just
to my
working.
schedule. So it's like I'm trying to find a way to push my passion projects to the week without
Yeah.
being super tired, but I'm still figuring things out. But the things that I do that helps me unwind is like chores, which sounds crazy, but it's actually just a fun moment for me because I know that when I, for example, wash the dishes or I meal prep for the week and cook and
Mm-hmm.
clean and do all of that stuff, that is also my time to watch anime. So I connected the
Mm.
two. Like I love watching anime. So I get the I get the productivity stuff done and also get to do something that's fun, and it's really became a really nice habit as of recent where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to Saturday because Saturday I'm going to wash all of these dishes, I'm going to take out the trash, do this and that because I want to watch My Hero Academia or I want to
Yeah.
watch whatever anime that I'm watching at the time. And so it also just gives me a way to start the week fresh, which sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you just need that reset of just like, all right, there is so much going on. Like, I just need to get all this stuff out of here and just start fresh and clean and just feel good about the space that I'm in. And that's the biggest thing because I do have depressive episodes, and when those depressive episodes hit, this little tiny ass studio apartment becomes a depression room real quick. Like
Yeah.
you would be surprised at how much shit can be in this room, but it really starts with taking those small steps to unwind. And
Yeah.
I think it's also easier for me because I have a set schedule every single week, Monday
Yeah.
through Friday, 9 to 5. So once Friday 5 p.m. hit, laptop close, nothing work related at all. And that's something a lot different than back when I had like retail jobs. And so one week my work schedule could be Monday through Saturday. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's Monday through Saturday, and then I have that next Sunday of the next week and all the way to Thursday. And those kind of work schedules can be really crazy and really hard to find a time to unwind because it's so irregular. So I think that for me, having the habit, having the consistency has helped me so much.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one of the things that I've tried to kind of work on as I've been, in this kind of self-love journey and kind of, learning how to mitigate my mental issues and stuff like that too, is by getting into some of the treatment options for people struggling with my particular mental situation. And so one of the ways that it is like, okay, going to the gym or like, stuff like that. So I'm trying to kind of work those things in. And I did notice that when I was going to the gym, the depressive episodes that I did run into were not as prevalent or not as intense, but I kind of fell off again because, depression and other things. And the one that I deal with. And it's just like I'm trying to slowly get myself back into that because I know that I need it. Like one of the ways that I'm trying to, get my mind situated with it is that like going to the gym is not about getting skinny or not about trying to look a certain way, but going to the gym for me is about taking my medicine, quote unquote. It's like this is the thing that I know for a fact has worked in the past. And yes, it's a little bit of work, but it does pay off for my mental health and it does help me unwind and kind of, get to a little bit of a place of relaxation. And so I'm trying to kind of find those ways, loving myself, taking myself out, getting myself present, stuff like that, to kind of slowly get myself into the practice of unwinding and not having that once again be a form of just like I'm going to the gym because I want to escape everything. It's like, no, I'm going to the gym because I want to have I want to relax. I want to, take a breath.
Yeah, it's really about changing that mindset of just like, instead of escaping, it's like, what do you as a person deserve because you're a person? Like going to the
Yes.
gym, like I deserve to feel good in my body. I deserve a body that can allow me to do the things that I want to do. So going to the gym could be part of getting what you deserve. For me, I deserve good food. And so cooking good food is a way that
Yeah.
I can get that. Or I deserve a clean space to work in. I deserve a organized work environment. And so doing those things and kind of resetting your mind into having these kind of affirmations of what you're doing, like I'm doing this because I deserve a good meal. I deserve a clean environment. I deserve to be happy, and this is something that makes me happy, really helps to like kind of, I don't know, for me it like checks a box in my head of just like, okay, like I like this.
No, but you ate. No, you ate that. You just got me on something right now. I didn't think about that. I deserve to have a body that I feel comfortable in, or I deserve to have like. I think that that is a really great way of doing it. Like you said, like just if you change the mindset behind why you're doing something, it maybe even changes the feelings behind it. So it's no longer I'm
Right.
going to eat out. Oh God, I'm going to be because I'm da da da. It's like
Right.
I had a really rough day, and I want to reward myself with a nice meal that I don't have to cook. And
Right.
like, bitch, you ate that. Like, you
it,
ate
it,
that.
it changes things from, okay, I have to go to the gym, I have to clean, I have to do this, and no, it's like I deserve to have this, and so I want to do this.
Bitch, you better. Bitch, you better. Now, so many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So it's time for a motherfucking change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. In an article on Britannica.com, we learn about Shirley Chisholm, born November 30th, 1924, in Brooklyn, New York. In 1968, Chisholm was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, defeating the civil rights leader James Farmer. In Congress, she quickly became known as a strong liberal who opposed weapons development and the war in Vietnam and favored full employment proposals. As a candidate for the Democratic nomination for U.S. President in 1972, she won 152 delegates before withdrawing from the race. Chisholm, a founder of the National Women's Political Caucus, supported the Equal Rights Amendment and legalized abortions throughout her congressional career, which lasted from 1969 to 1983. She wrote the autobiographical works Unbought and Unbossed in 1970, and The Good Fight in 1973. After her retirement from Congress, Chisholm remained active on the lecture circuit. She held the position of Purington Professor at Mount Holyoke College from 1983 to 1987 and was visiting scholar at Spelman College in 1985. In 1993, she was invited by President Bill Clinton to serve as an ambassador to Jamaica, but declined because of poor health. Chisholm was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015.
Black
Motherfucking
women,
black women!
period. Like love a black woman from
To
infinity to
infinity.
infinity. So, in an article from blackpast.org, we learn about Thomas Green Wiggins, who was born May 25th, 1849, into slavery on a Georgia plantation. He was blind and autistic, but a musical genius with a phenomenal memory. Young Tom was fascinated by music and other sounds and could pick out tunes on the piano by the age of 4. He made his concert debut at 8, performing in Atlanta. In 1859, at the age of 10, he became the first African American performer to play at the White House when he gave a concert before President James Buchanan. His piano pieces, Oliver Gallup and Virginia Polka, were published in 1860. By 1865, 16-year-old Tom Wiggins could play difficult work of Bach, Chopin, Liszt, Beethoven, and Thalberg. He also played pieces after one hearing and memorized poems and texts in foreign languages. Blind Tom Wiggins became an internationally recognized performer, and he gave his last performance in 1905. He died 3 years later on June 13th, 1908, at the age of 59.
Black people.
Period. Like, we love a black musician. Memorizing pieces, that can be hard.
Bitch, 4
Especially when
years
you're talking
old.
about Bach and Chopin and all of those.
But no, what's getting me is the whole like, bitch, by the age of 4, he could pick out bitch, bitch, bitch.
And he was doing this all while blind.
Like,
Like, it's hard
baby.
enough for me to play instruments and I can see.
Daquon. Daquon. But yeah, like that is amazing. Like black people said, baby, ain't nothing gonna stop me. Ain't nothing gonna stop me from being that bitch.
Period.
Now, as always, thank you all so much for watching and keep the conversation going down in the comment box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you are listening to us on our podcast, please rate and review on whatever platform you're using. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram and TikTok at the Melanin Margin for updates on new content.
And if you'd like to follow each of us, our handles are at Daquon MUE
and at Andre Talks a Lot.
Now we will see you all next time on the Melanin Margin, where our goal is always to bring the marginalized to the spotlight in any way we can. Goodbye now.